All right, back with MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy. Sir, it's been a minute. Good to see you. And we thought summer would be a downtime, but sure enough, summer has been anything but a downtime.
Yeah, and I know for you too. You're right at the beginning of Chiefs camp, and I know you're running pretty hard. But it seems that way for us in the conference office too. We're normally able to come up and catch our breath a little bit, at least in July, and not the case. We've been running pretty hard through June and July, and here in a couple of weeks we'll be right back at it. So, but it's been fun. It's been a good summer. Last year was a great year. It's been a good summer for the league, and we're ready to go again. Another academic year.
You're talking about getting ready to go again. MIAA Football Media Day behind us now. It's kind of the official kickoff to, I guess, the fall sports season. Practices and stuff doesn't start until I think next week for teams and everything. But Media Day, just kind of that official. We're back. Things are going again. Just overall takeaways that you had from Media Day this year.
Yeah, I thought it was a great media day. Yeah, that was last. I think it was last Tuesday that we got everybody together and had all 12 of our coaches. We had 30 some student athletes. Gathered everybody in downtown Kansas City. Broadcast live on the MIAA network. Had many of our referees were in attendance. I'll talk in a minute here about why, but we had really great attendance, good media presence, a lot of good engagement, both in the media room, and then we kind of created a new area called our tailgate area. It was sponsored by Impact Signs out of Sedalia, and had a lot of interactive stuff there for our student athletes. Really, what you would find in a tailgate space on a college game day. And Brenna in our office organized a little cornhole competition between the student athletes. And I think maybe the young men from Central Missouri may have won that, but it was.
Did you play?
I did not. I did not get on the bags, but. Had fun watching, and it was just a great kickoff, as you said, a kickoff for the MIAA football season, and always fun and really a positive day for the conference.
As we kind of look at the football season, like you talked about, the 12 teams, same 12 teams, everything kind of going through. What excites you the most about what you see potentially this year? There's some new faces, coaching staff wise. You also have your usual suspects when you saw the preseason polls toward the top, but it's a new year and you're starting. I think some of the coaches talked about it too, is we're starting to come back to where we maybe were not before COVID, but eligibility wise, guys are now getting a chance that had to wait a couple extra years because of the COVID year where the eligibility was expanded too.
Yeah, I think the thing that excites me the most when I was listening to our coaches and heard them talking about the number of starters returning, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, there were a number of coaches that talked with excitement about the weapons that they've got coming back, and so I'm hopeful that we see a lot of offense, a lot of high scoring, fun. MIAA games, and we usually do get that at the beginning of the year, but sounds like there's going to be some pretty good offense this year in the conference. You mentioned it. I'm excited about the new coaches. They're new coaches, but they've been here before. We know who they are and what they're capable of, and I feel some encouragement at Newman, Northeastern State, Missouri. I said Newman, at Lincoln, Missouri Southern, Northeastern State. Some schools that have been going through some struggles in the conference to put together successful seasons, and they all sounded real positive. mainly with depth. A number of kids that have gone out and been recruited and helping to, shore up some depth on the offensive and defensive lines, which is important in the MIAA. So, just a lot of great, encouraging comments from our coaches that makes me excited for the start of camp and the start of the schedule.
A part of the media day that, I just thought of just now as we're talking about it too is, we always talk about the closed schedule a little bit, but now that the spring season kind of allows the opportunity to have kind of a joint practice, kind of joint opportunity to have, it's nothing official by any means, but it's an opportunity to play somebody else outside the conference because the league is still a closed schedule league at this point too.
Yeah. So we were able to do that in COVID, Chris, and then that went away. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one of the things that I talked about at Media Day was the leadership role that the MIAA is taking in trying to sponsor some legislative changes that will be considered at this year's NCAA convention in January that I think will enhance the experience that our student athletes have, not just in the MIAA, but throughout Division II in playing football. And we've got to do these changes if we want to retain these young men that are coming to our campus to be college football student athletes. The MIAA has sponsored 3 proposals. One of them you just mentioned is to bring back that experience in spring ball, to have a scrimmage or an organized practice with another team. We hear from our coaches and our student athletes that's important. We need to pass that in January at the convention when the membership's together, and let's put that back in place. The other change that the MIAA sponsored, Chris, is the ability for a student athlete starting his career in Division II to play up to 3 games their freshman season without burning a year of eligibility.
Yeah,
you get 4 years to play, and in Division I, you can play up to 4 games as a freshman, and you don't use your freshman season. It's considered a redshirt year. We need that same thing in Division II, and our rules can be a little different. It's up to 3 games, any 3 games, and it'll give some of these freshman student athletes a chance to get on the field and experience college football, limited, probably playing some special teams or in at the end of a blowout game, but it'll give them some experience before they come back for their 4 seasons of eligibility. And then the final change is something, again, we did in COVID that went away, is to bring back the opportunity for our student athletes in all sports to work with coaches in the month of July in some skill instruction right before they start fall camp. And our student athletes, our coaches, they want to be together. They need to be together in the summer. This is a limited opportunity to do that. And again, we've sponsored legislation from the MIAA that'll be in front of the membership in January to put that back in place. So I touched on all of that at Media Day, and I hope other conferences, not just the MIAA, listen and watch this podcast, because those are important changes we want to make in order for us to retain student athletes and make them want to come back to our Division II schools.
You kind of brought up the word retain, and this is going to go to a different direction, I think, a little bit, but there's so much with the transfer portal, and we're watching Division I Power 5 unfold this summer. How much is there, I don't want to say pressure on Division II, but maybe there is to kind of keep the football and the other sports here at Division II while we watch Division I change rapidly and nowhere near being done with their movements either at this point too.
Yeah, I think that's important for Division II. Things are great in Division II. We've got a great division. We've got a great philosophy. We've got a great membership. We do things the right way. But we shouldn't assume that status quo is what we need to be. We need to continue to get better. We need to continue to do things that enhance the experience that our student athletes get. Our student athletes want to be around coaches. Our student athletes in the spring want to play against somebody other than just who they go against every day in practice. Our student athletes that are freshmen need to experience a little bit of game action without them, using a season eligibility. Let that redshirt year include some limited action in games. Those are things that we can do. They're minor tweaks or minor revisions in our rules, but they're important to show student athletes, to show our fans, to show coaches, that we can continue to get better as a division. So, I know there's a lot of talk in Division II that, hey, everything's great, nothing's broken, we don't need to fix anything. I don't agree with that. Let Division I be transformative. They need to be. There's a lot of things broke in Division I, a lot of things they need to fix and address. But we also need to be thinking strategically in Division II about ways that we can improve, ways that we can get better. And I think the three proposals I just described help us do that in Division II.
All right, let's talk about another area of, we can call it improvement, I guess.
Yeah.
Instant replay.
Yeah.
It's a fan favorite to talk about because of fans and instant replay that a lot of schools have. You put them on the video board. Officials can't use that replay, but the schools can. But now there's movement, I guess, to make it to where it may be a possibility for Division II and MIAA. You guys talked about on Media Day, instant replay. It's not going anywhere. It's here, whether people want it or not, too.
Yeah. So unfortunately, at the Division II and Division III level, Chris, we've been stuck because of a rule in the NCAA football playing rules, Rule 12, that describes how replay is to be administered. It's really cost prohibitive at the Division II and Division III level. The way Rule 12 is laid out, Chris, requires the game to actually have a replay booth. And that replay booth to have personnel that's monitoring all of the plays, and with technology to be able to signal to an official to stop the game. And we can't afford that. In Division II, really the only time that that's available is in the semifinals and the championship of our playoffs, where the NCAA will bring that in and pays for that. But we've really, at the beginning of the summer, our supervisor of officials, Phil Laurie, kind of stumbled into some technology that's being used in the Canadian Football League, where all of the replay decisions are actually controlled and made on the field. There's no replay booth. And it's done with an iPad. The technology hooks into cameras that are already being used, either for our MIAA network or the video that's being done for the team video exchanges, and what our officiating crews watch after the game to really evaluate their work. And we can have a iPad under a tent on the sideline that will review every targeting call, and it would allow coaches to have up to 2 challenges a game if they see a play that's reviewable that they don't like, they question whether that was accurate, they can throw a challenge flag, and our officials can quickly go to the replay tent, have a couple of angles, fast play, slow motion, look at that play and make a decision whether to affirm the call or to reverse. And we think it's going to be done in a way that doesn't add cost to the game, taking advantage of technology, and will not make the games any longer than they need to be. And anyway, we petitioned the NCAA to have an exception to Rule 12 for us to be able to really experiment with this technology for Division II and III. We found out earlier this week, Chris, that the NCAA has granted us that right to experiment with instant replay this year if our athletic directors decide to. We have an AD meeting tomorrow. So I'm breaking some news to you here, Chris. I
was going to say, this is happening fast.
Yeah. We won't know until tomorrow afternoon. We're taping this on Wednesday. We won't know until Thursday afternoon if the athletic directors feel like we have enough time in the next 30 days to kind of put all this together. I think we do, but it's ultimately our ADs. It's their decision. But we'll know by this time tomorrow if the MIAA is going to be experimenting with instant replay this season and sharing the reports every week with the NCAA. And who knows, maybe we test this in the fall, and maybe this is what we see in Division II and Division III moving forward. This type of sideline technology with iPads that will allow our officials to get these calls right. And that's, that's most important, especially on these targeting calls. If they got a targeting call wrong, we need to get that student athlete back in the game as soon as we can. They shouldn't be penalized and miss an entire half or an entire game because of a close play that the officials were trying to err on the side of safety. But if it's wrong, we need to get that student athlete back in.
So if everything goes hopefully according to plan, this would be for every game this fall, as long as the ADs, and is that to be a 12-0 vote, or how does that kind of have to go down for the?
Technically, no. It's going to be a majority vote. There is a cost that each school will have to incur. It's nominal compared to what we would be spending under the current rule. It's something that each school will need to, make sure that they can justify. But my hope is that we've done enough legwork. We had this company at Media Day testing the replay technology in front of our coaches. We had many of our ADs were there knowing that this was a possibility. We put in this request to the NCAA in early July to get an exception. It takes them a little time to go through the process to make that call. We understand that. But in July, we've been prepping our ADs that this is a possibility. So I'm hopeful the answer is yes, and I'm hopeful that we get a unanimous decision that this is not just good for the MIAA, but it's a good thing for us to test for Divisions 2 and 3 football.
And it seems like it's something that's long overdue, like you said, with the rule and everything. You had to have a certain amount of space and everything and cost. But I'll use an example. Last year, it didn't end up affecting the game at all. Trying to find the right word, and I couldn't find it. It didn't impact anything. Missouri Western Northwest, there was a fumble into a touchdown for Missouri Western. Now Northwest ended up winning that game by double digits, but that was one of those where I think we had about a 5 to 10 minute stoppage of, was that a pass? Was that a fumble? Those are the plays that instant replay would take care of one way or the other.
That's it. That's exactly right. And we need to educate our fans, that watch on Sunday and the NFL and the camera angles and the technology and the amount of money they're spending on replay. They're trying to decide whether or not there's a neutral zone infraction that they missed, a head over the football. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about making sure we can review every targeting call, and then these egregious errors like you described. And that was a call that was wrong. We made a call on the field that was a fumble, return for a touchdown. It should have been an incomplete pass. And a coach's challenge to go and have our white hat quickly look at that play on the sideline, under a tent, on an iPad, that call's reversed right away. We get it right, and we move on with the game. So that's a great example, Chris, of why replay is important in Division II and III. We have those plays. We have those things happen on a football field where the 8 officials that are there with assignments of what to be looking for, something gets missed. And if there's a way with technology to fix it, we should take the time to figure out how to do that.
And like you said, it's hopefully going to be used for those pretty much right there plays. Fans probably need to know this isn't going to be a constant go to the monitor. These are only reviewable for targeting and then 2 challenges, correct?
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's what I love about it. We're going to review every targeting call. And, that's not a lot. I think last year we had maybe 10 the entire season in the MIAA. So 1 per weekend that we'll get to review. But it's important, that targeting results in ejection. And if it's wrong, we shouldn't be ejecting a student athlete for a good hit. They need to be playing. So we'll be able to look at all of those. And then we put the rest of this in the control of the head coaches. They get, as long as they have timeouts left, they get a challenge. And if they get that challenge right, they've got another challenge. So up to 2 challenges for each coach every game, and they'll make that judgment of what they want to look at per those areas within Rule 12 of the NCAA football playing rules. So I love it. Puts the control of this with those that are in the game. Our head coaches and our referee will be the ones making the decision. We're going to go take a look at that and be able to make that decision very quickly.
Instant replay, potentially right on the other side of tomorrow, I guess. Be on the other side of tomorrow, basically, is when we find out if instant replay will be used this fall. We'll stick with not really a football theme, but kind of the school theme here with the conference. I don't know how many people didn't realize it, but when you have schools like Rogers State and Newman becoming full-fledged members, and we talked about off air how fast the summer flew. That's been what you said at the beginning of July. I'm losing track of dates already. That's how my summer's going.
Yeah, the decision by our presidents the end of June is when they met, and one of their big agenda items was the final evaluation and review of Rogers State and Newman. Newman and Rogers have been in the MIAA as associate members the last couple of years, and including a year that we lost with COVID. So, both institutions have really gone through quite a long process of being evaluated for membership. But both institutions were added as members. Neither sponsors football, and we had to work through that. But both institutions are good Division II members. Newman in Wichita, Kansas, Rogers State, suburb of Tulsa. So both institutions in metropolitan areas where we have a number of MIAA alumni, where we have a number of high schools that our coaches like to visit and recruit, and institutions that I believe are really poised to make giant steps forward with their athletic departments. They recognize when we talk about bringing your A game in the MIAA, it relates to a lot of things, including facilities and funding and recruiting budgets and all of the above. And We saw Roger State have success in softball
Yep.
this past spring where they won a national championship. Newman's got a new president, a president that understands the value and importance of a strong intercollegiate athletics program, not just for your campus environment, but also enrollment and the ability to engage with alumni and boosters. So I'm excited, and the great news is that we're in expansion mode. Our presidents, we're not done at 14. We're not, that's not our end goal. There's a lot of noise about expansion and movement at the Division I level. We're doing this for different reasons, but even in Division II, there is certainly strength in numbers and the size of conference. And as long as it makes great geographic sense, as long as you've got institutions that are aligned with your other schools academically and share the same Division II mission and philosophy, then expansion and growth makes sense. And I think for the MIAA, our expansion is really going to come from schools that may realize that they really don't need to be in Division I. They're wasting a lot of money in Division I. They're spending a lot of money in travel and intercollegiate athletics at the D1 level that could be put to other places on campus. And geographically, they could compete in a conference like the MIAA and may find that they can be competitive. So I think D1 and existing Division II schools that may have interest in what the MIAA has to offer is where we'll see future growth in our conference. No set timeline, Chris. I think we can be a little strategic and a little patient, but the MIAA will continue to get bigger.
So you're saying it won't be one of those conferences where you grab two California schools and be called one number and have like 16 sitting in your conference? I
don't think so. I think when we say we're the Mid-America Intercollegiate Athletics Conference, we're gonna say that middle and mid
right
means something. Yes. So we're not interested in coast to coast. We're a Midwest conference. I think that's important for our existing schools that geography makes sense for the MIAA.
And without asking you any direct numbers or anything, but how does the conference decide what the right number is for the league to be sitting at? And that could be probably depending on football as well as the other sports too.
Yeah, I think football is an important part of the conversations, and as we would grow beyond 12, Chris, we would have to look at how do we divide the MIAA? Is it two divisions of East West, and how many in each division, or do we grow big enough that we have a North, a South, and a Central subdivisions of the MIAA? And those are conversations that we've just started, that we need to really think about. What does adding new schools that sponsor football, what does that do to our existing schedule? It would cause us to have to think about subdivisions. What does that mean? What does that look like? How's that organized? And how early could we do that? So a lot of logistical issues, and I'd say even some challenges that have to be addressed before we figure out kind of what direction the MIAA might grow.
Does the MIAA have to have any reflexes to what happens Division I, like you talked about? There's Division I schools that may realize we're spending a lot of money up here at Division I. Division II fits us better, or do you guys even have to be reactive to what happens with the conferences at Division I level?
I think that's why when I say we've got a little opportunity here to be patient and strategic, I think part of that is just kind of taking notes and observing what's going on at the D1 level. You know, they're trying to figure out what's it mean to be a D1 member. You know, what are the commitments a school would need to make to be part of Division I membership? And you know, those are conversations that they're not close to finalizing at the Division I level. And once they do finalize that, you know, there'll probably be some schools that have some interesting decisions they'll need to make. You know, are there some areas that they want to ramp up and that they need to enhance? Or are there other opportunities that might include Division II membership, maybe the MIAA, and what would that look like? So we're a year away from probably some of those type of decisions being made, and we need to, you know, we've been around for 112 years. I certainly hope the MIAA has another 112 or more in it. So we can be a little patient. We can be a little strategic to figure out long-term what's best from a membership standpoint for the MIAA.
We're running out of time here, but you know, why not? Well, we do this about every, you know, conversation we have, and we haven't done this since, what was it, May? How's the future of the NCAA looking at this point when we have the shifts in the Division I Power Fives, where you have the Big Ten going coast to coast now, and just kind of what are your overall thoughts of where we're heading now? Or is the picture even clear at this point, or it's still muddy for a lot of people kind of looking at it?
Yeah, I think it's still muddy, and I'm not sure that anyone really has a good handle on what direction all of this is going. You know, a lot of it's being driven by media and TV and networks, and you know, the opportunity to build schedules that are attractive for people that will be watching on their phones or their laptops or their television. So I'm not sure that we know, and I think we've seen some surprises already. You know, with the decision by UCLA and USC, and you know, and people, you know, there's movement. You know, even at the lower Division I levels.
Yeah.
You know, even today there was some news about school leaving and moving into the Colonial Athletic Association. So, you know, there's changes taking place, and these type of evaluations. The thing that's lost, and maybe we can transition into this quickly, Chris, that I think the thing that's lost in a lot of the conversations in Division I is really what, you know, what's best for the student athletes and their experience. And one of the things that we talked about briefly last academic year, and we kicked it off this summer, is our MIAA Constitution Task Force.
Yeah.
They had their first meeting last week. It's a small group that was put in place by our presidents. It's being chaired or co-chaired by President Elizabeth Kennedy at Missouri Western and President John Mosley at Lincoln. And it was loud and clear in our first meeting as we spent about 90 minutes in a virtual meeting. And we just it was an organizational meeting, and we walked through kind of 12 big organizational issues for the MIAA related to our constitution, our bylaws, our administrative structure, the authority of the conference office, what the agenda looks like for our presidents, you know, how often and who's on our athletic administrators committee, all of those things. But the biggest issue that came out of that meeting was a recognition that in the MIAA, like other Division I, Division II, and Division III conferences, we do not have in place the appropriate structure to allow the voice of our student athletes to be heard, and for our student athletes to take an active role in decision making. And, no decisions have been made about what our new structure looks like. But my prediction, by January, the MIAA will have some news where we've got student athletes sitting at our highest level of governance in the MIAA with our presidents and voting on issues of importance related to their health, their well-being, their travel, their academic studies, their schedules, all of those issues. So we recognize in the MIAA, and I think it's true throughout Division II, that important decisions need student athletes at the table making these decisions. I'm proud that on this Constitution Task Force, we have our National Student Athlete Advisory Committee representative from Missouri Southern. She's one of 9 people that the president's put on this task force to figure out our future. And I know she certainly supports that. Top priority 1 is enhancing the voice of the student athlete in the MIAA.
Lots of good stuff coming ahead for the MIAA. A lot of changes probably on the horizon for everybody, but looking forward to the new year because like we saw last year, nothing stays the same and nothing stays the same for very long if it changes either way. So
yeah.
Good to see you again, sir. And we'll talk again probably next week then at this point.
Yeah, you bet, Chris. I think it's challenging times in intercollegiate athletics, but I think it's also exciting times.